You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Bucklar, and my guest today joins me from Melbourne in Australia. It is Professor Andrew Scholey, Director of the Centre for Human Psychopharmacology at Swinburne University in Melbourne. Andrew, welcome to Health Professional Radio.
Hello, Wayne.
Now, Andrew, I understand you're speaking at Blackmores Institute Symposium on your research, and I think that symposium is coming up on about the 23rd and 24th of this month, and I think that's in Melbourne. So, as a bit of a heads up on what you're going to talk about, can you give us some insight into the work you've been doing?
Yes. So, the Centre for Human Psychopharmacology here at Swinburne is very interested in the health effects of natural products, and particularly the cognitive benefits, so the benefits to mood and cognitive function, so things like memory and attention, and particularly in or including in older individuals. And one of the substances that we've been studying recently is curcumin, which is a component of the spice turmeric.
Okay.
So I'll be talking about the health benefits of curcumin.
Andrew, when you're selecting something to put into a research study, and I understand this was a double-blind placebo study, so it's not something that's done lightly, what on earth led you to turmeric?
Well, actually, a few things. One is that there is some evidence that, bizarrely, that people who eat more curry may be a little bit protected against cognitive decline. So I think it's worth making it very clear from the outset. We're not talking about binary effect here. It doesn't mean eat more curry, you won't get Alzheimer's disease. But certainly, if you look at populations, the populations which eat more curry tend to get slightly lower rates of cognitive decline and dementia. Of course, there might be numerous third factors which are responsible for that. So these epidemiological studies, as we call them, the population studies, are important, but really important to also conduct clinical trials to test these effects. And these studies have also, the studies which have found the effects of curry, also have narrowed that down to turmeric, and in particular to a component of turmeric called curcumin. And there's been actually decades of research on curcumin in animal studies and also some human trials looking at health benefits in other contexts. So, for example, looking at the way that curcumin can reduce inflammation, including studies, for example, showing that curcumin can reduce inflammation and increase blood flow. Some of the preclinical or animal studies have suggested that curcumin may benefit brain function. So that led us to our trial.
You're listening to Health Professional Radio with Wayne Bucklar, and I'm in conversation with Professor Andrew Scholey, the Director of the Centre for Human Psychopharmacology at Swinburne University, Melbourne. Andrew's recently published some research looking at the effects of curcumin on mental functioning, and curcumin is a component in the Indian spice turmeric. And we've been having a fascinating conversation about how epidemiological studies led to this investigation. Now, Andrew, this sounds like a serious piece of clinical research. If this was a double-blind placebo-controlled study, that's not something you do lightly.
Correct, yes. So I should probably say from the outset, the study was it was sponsored by a company who manufacture the extract that we evaluated. So I think it's very important to be transparent about that. And the study was actually a part of my PhD student, Kate Cox's studies. The study was also part of my PhD student, Kate Cox's series of studies. And it was, as you said, Wayne, it's a placebo-controlled double-blind study. So we didn't know what the participants were getting. They didn't know. So it was actually performed to the highest standards possible in this domain. And perhaps I could just run you through the study design and what we found. It involved older individuals. So these were a group of 60 60 to 85-year-olds. The mean age was 68 or 69. And they were healthy. So we weren't, in this case, looking for people with cognitive decline or dementia, although some of our other studies do specifically target those groups. And they were randomized to receive either curcumin or a placebo for 4 weeks. So they were tested on a baseline. We gave them their first dose of curcumin or placebo. We then tested them an hour and 3 hours after that first dose just to see if there were any so-called acute effects. And acute effects are the sort of effects that you might get from something like caffeine. That is, you take caffeine because you want to feel the benefits within minutes or hours. And then they continued on their treatments for 4 weeks, came back into the lab, we tested them, and then we tested them again. So we tested them after 4 weeks to evaluate the so-called chronic effects. The test involved a series of tests of cognitive function. So we used a standardized test battery where participants sat in front of a computer which controlled the presentation of the stimuli very carefully and also recorded the responses in a way that meant that the experimenters couldn't influence the outcome at all. And also a number of questionnaires which evaluated their mood and quality of life and things like fatigue. And what we found was very interesting. Some of the results were unexpected, I have to say, but very striking. So, looked at what happened after the very first dose of curcumin, comparing placebo to curcumin. We found that those in the curcumin group performed significantly better on working memory and attention. So, working memory would equate to everyday tasks such as remembering a PIN number, for example. So you get a new credit card and you sort of get that 4-digit number and you know that you're going to have to remember that on many occasions, so you rehearse it. And when you rehearse it, you're using working memory. And that's important because working memory is one of the key cognitive domains which deteriorates with aging. It's also very closely involved with the kind of impairments people get which manifest themselves as things like, well, I walked into this room, what did I come into this room for? Or, I went over to pick up my phone and I picked up the phone, I couldn't remember who I was going to phone. So those sort of everyday effects rely on working memory. And we also found improvement in being able to pick up stimuli, so detect a stimulus which requires concentration, the ability to sort of filter out distracting information. So that's what we found acutely. When we looked at the chronic effect, so the effect at 28 days of administration, there was a slightly different pattern. So the working memory benefit still there, but by far the most striking benefit was reduced fatigue. So this was looking at, it was a questionnaire, but a very well validated questionnaire which is used to gauge people's fatigue over the last week or so. And what we found was that those in the curcumin group had significantly reduced fatigue, which of course is quite important when you consider what people think about as being problematic with aging.
Yes.
And so one thing clearly that people really don't like about getting older is the fact that they have less energy. So that was an important finding, I think, for us. The third effect, which was, I think, again, very, very striking, was that when this group of people who, as I said, were healthy and older, in their 60s and 70s, actually sit down in front of a computer and undergo tests of their mental ability for 30 or 40 minutes, as it was in this case, they find it stressful. So you find that if you measure, for example, self-rated calmness, contentedness, alertness, again using very standardized and well-accepted measures, that these are reduced, whereas their sulfurated stress and in fact fatigue as well increases, which is obviously, which is probably not surprising. What we found when we analysed the data was that the people in the curcumin group seemed to be protected against that negative mood effect. So they were more calm, more content, they were less fatigued by undertaking the test battery itself. So it seemed to buffer against the negative effect of mentally challenging situations, or particularly this mentally challenging situation. And finally, in keeping with published literature on curcumin, we also found reductions in cholesterol, and particularly the LDL, or the so-called bad cholesterol.
Andrew, you published your results in the Journal of Psychopharmacology, and I have to confess I've not often read that particular journal. I'm assuming it's a peer-reviewed journal. So these results obviously stand up to academic scrutiny.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So the work that we do here at the CHP, the Centre for Human Psychopharmacology, is conducted at a high enough standard that we know that we can publish it in high-impact peer-reviewed journals. So it goes under the rigor of peer review. Sometimes this work on natural products is viewed with a bit of suspicion by our peers. So it's very important that we make sure that they use the best available methodology. And I have to say, what we're talking about here are a lot of our work involves very well characterized bioactive plant extracts. So we're not talking about, and I really tend to avoid words like alternative medicine and complementary medicine. What we're talking about here are very well characterized extracts that happen to be from natural sources, which have known bioactivities. In other words, we know that they reliably affect certain processes, physiological processes within the body. I should also say that curcumin itself, not all curcumins are equal. Mm-hmm. So, and one important aspect of this is that if you look at the levels of curcumin we use, it was about 80 milligrams of curcumin, which actually you could get by just eating a large dessert spoonful of turmeric, except that when you eat the spice itself, it doesn't absorb into the body. It has what we call low bioavailability, which means that it doesn't, and most of it passes through the gut or undergoes degradation in the gut. The particular curcumin that we use goes under the trade name of Longvida, and it's treated in a specific way which increases its bioavailability.
And I'm just assuming that if it's a choice between a tablet and a tablespoon of turmeric, patient compliance is going to be much higher with the tablet.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And in fact, we had excellent compliance. I think it was 100%, in fact, which is down to the great work of Kay Cox, the PhD student who conducted the study.
Yeah, Andrew, I understand the cynicism that sometimes people express to me when I'm talking to them, and our audience is mainly hard-stream clinical people, and they're sometimes very sceptical of the marketing behind some natural products. But on the other hand, we have a whole bunch of now well-established clinical products like penicillin, which started life in the natural realm. So sometimes I think it's just an attitudinal thing that has to change. My GP happily prescribes to me fish oil for cholesterol without in any way considering himself to be an alternative prescriber.
I think that's a really good point, Wayne. And I actually share a lot of skepticism about some natural products, but I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I'm able to evaluate the science, and in many cases things are advertised without any evidence base behind them, but there are also many products out there with an increasing body of evidence which supports their health benefits, and I'm really pleased that I'm part of that.
Now, time is running away on us here, Andrew, but I understand you're presenting the results of your published paper at the Blackmores Institute Symposium later this month. Can people get in touch with you if they've got a fascination with curcumin along the way?
Look, I'm happy for people to contact me. Probably email is the best way. So you can email me at, probably the best email is andrew@scholeylab.com, so that's SCHOLEYLAB.com. We're also always looking for volunteers for our studies. We've got ongoing studies looking at or evaluating the positive benefits of natural products in healthy people of all ages, and also in people who are worried about their memories. So please get in touch with me if you're able to take part in the studies here in Melbourne.
Professor Andrew Scholey, Director of the Centre for Human Psychopharmacology at Swinburne University in Melbourne, thank you for your time this morning. I understand you're a busy person and I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you've just been listening to us and you've just missed my conversation with Professor Andrew Scholey, then you've missed a fascinating discussion about work he's going to present at the Blackmores Institute Symposium on curcumin and its effect on brain ageing. However, the good news is we have a transcript of this interview on our website. That's at www.hbr.fm. And you can also hear on SoundCloud and on YouTube the audio archive of our interview. You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Bucklar.